Gone is an off-season of blindsiding green waves, historic hurricanes, and the timeliest of summer earthquakes. Saturday night in the historic Coliseum, fall returns to spin us another epic, and so does the Cardinal, the Gold, and a bronze-clad Heisman Trophy winning captain. The men of Troy are back, primed to face playoff hopes, championship dreams, and a runaway hype train ticketed for Houston. Standing in their way to starts, the fittest of foes, the Spartans. It's the USC Trojans, it's San Jose State. This is Week 0.
Rant Troy Hotline. Alicia, Michael, what's going on?
We know you have takes. We have takes.
I'm actually surprised that your Rant Line, Rave Line, whatever, isn't completely full.
Why can't we just win a game?
Can I blame Michael Castillo for this?
Can I blame Bob Connolly for this?
Could I put on a zebra shirt and just go out there? Scratch, claw, up against the wall.
Can't explain it what I'm feeling right now, guys.
I can't believe it. Let's open up that race line! Woohoo!
Oh, I can't believe USC has hired Lincoln Riley. Oh, yeah.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Rant Troy Radio, episode 498, coming to you on Wednesday, August 23rd. This is the first game preview episode of the season. We're going to be looking forward to Saturday evening, nights, whatever you want to call it. USC and San Jose State, locking horns at the Coliseum, 5 p.m. on the Pac-12 networks. We're going to give you some analysis, break it all down, our predictions, and so much more. Play some over-under as well. We're super excited about it. As always, you can follow us on Twitter at Rant of Troy, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Rant of Troy. Our email address is rantoftroy@fanside.com, and our phone number, 818-643-7227. Lock that number in right now into your phone so you can call during the Rant Line, the Rave Line, whatever ends up happening. You can call in during the game and give us your thoughts. And if everything goes to plan, we'll throw them into a montage for next week. So we're super pumped about it. I'm your host, Mike Castillo, joined along with my co-host in the Rant Line studio in Los Angeles, Alicia.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. We're back.
We're back. The dramatic entrances are back.
They are back. Yeah.
I love this for us. I'm so happy that you're doing these again. I'm pumped. I was ready. I got a sneak peek of it earlier today, and I was just ready to run through a damn wall. So
So the interesting thing is, so we're live on YouTube, and if you're joining us on YouTube, it's a bunch of people on YouTube here already, and we're excited about it and glad you guys are all here. The way that the little online studio thing works, we basically have like an image that's like sitting on top of us while the intro is playing. You know what it reminded me of? It's like when you go see like a comedian and like the intro music starts playing, but the comedian is still outside. I mean, still backstage, like waiting to come on or something, or like a boxer. You know what I mean? The boxer intros.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe this is self-serving to say, but I'm excited for this episode. I feel like I've said that like 9 times already. So I hope you guys are as well. If you're joining us live on YouTube, be sure to subscribe if you're not subscribed. Subscribe so that way you get all of us into your subscription feed. But also hit the bell so you get notified of all of our new episodes, which are Mondays and Wednesdays during the season, and then CarCast on Saturdays. Programming notes about the CarCast this year. Doing it a little bit different. Still going to be live CarCast here on YouTube. Home games, the CarCast will take place about 2 hours after the game. Road games, we're looking at like 15 minutes after the game. This not only allows me to go to the game, allows you guys to go to the game. One of the feedback, the things that we got last year was how it was difficult for people to listen to the CarCast if they were going to the game, because while the listening while you're on your drive home is ideal, not always the easiest to tune into YouTube live, or while you're walking through the Rose Garden or whatnot on the way back to the shuttle or something. So 2 hours after every home game, 15 minutes after every road game, live here on YouTube every Saturday nights that SC plays.
Yeah, it's going to be super fun. Doing the CarCast live on YouTube was might have been my favorite thing of the year last year. And I'm looking forward to doing it again. I'm looking forward to being able to include more people, hopefully, in that because of the home game delay. And we're always open to feedback from you about what works and what doesn't work as far as any of the shows, but CarCast specifically. And let's ride. Let's do it.
Are you Russell Wilson now?
Trojan country. Let's ride.
You might be more excited than he is in these things.
I mean,
so yeah, that's the CarCast on Saturday. Look for that. Probably going to be like around 10:30 or something, which I know is late, but that's what we got going. So you can join us then. We're going to be here live on YouTube, and then tomorrow we will be live on YouTube with a members only stream. Right after dark, you can get all of our members only content here on YouTube. $4.99 per month. You not only get to get all of our bonus content on YouTube, but you get to join our Discord where we have a chat of the dearest Rot Squad that we're calling them. Everybody that's a member is in the Rot Squad.
Yeah, it's going to be super, super exciting to always chat with everybody, whether we're doing our Thursday night shows, our meetups and everything like that. I'm just really pumped for the season, Michael. I don't want to keep repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm just really pumped for everything genuinely.
Yeah, me too. And then the last little note here, Friday, the day before the game, Football Eve, we will be having our first Rot meetup in like 4 years. We're doing it super T-ball style. It's going to be low key but fun. We're just going to go to Shakey's Pizza in Valley Village on Laurel Canyon. 6 p.m. Friday. Come join us. Hang out with some Rot bots. Have a slice and a pint or whatever. And it'll be a good time.
It'll be a great time is what it'll be.
Yeah, 100%. But this is episode 498. And it's one that is brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. Caesars Sportsbook is kicking off the NCAA football season with a new Bet 50, Get 250 in bonus bets limited time offer. New users can sign up with our code FSBETS30GET and redeem $250 in bonus bets after placing your first wager of $50 on any NFL game. Even if your first bet loses, you receive one $50 bonus bet credit each week over the next 5 weeks. Make sure to enter our code FSBETS30GET while signing up to have a bet on Caesars every week for the start of the season. That's code FSBETS30GET. You can see it on the screen here on YouTube. It'll also be in the full description down below. The offer is only available to new customers who are 21 plus and physically present in legal gambling states. Please remember to gamble responsibly. And of course, check the episode description for the full terms of the offer. Alicia, we got a bunch of stuff to get to. Before we get to the news, we just got to do a review really quick. We got a new one, 5 stars from Cameron that says Rot for life. Huge fan here. Love the show and great chemistry between you guys. All caps, Rotbots. Rotbots. Love that. Alicia, we got a bunch of news. Let's just get to it and take a quick break and tackle that now. All right, we got to start with some recruiting news. USC has picked up the commitment of 5-star quarterback Julian Lewis, the number 1 quarterback in the 2026 class. He's currently a sophomore in Carrollton, Georgia. The 2026 class. I know that it makes me feel old. I'm sure it makes you feel old. But he is coming to USC, or at least he says he is now.
Remember when David Sills was in like the class of 2015?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That's how. Yeah, that's.
And he committed in 2010.
Yeah. Big pickup for USC. Great way to start the future recruiting class off on a high note. It's always good to get a big hitter in your recruiting class early. It helps with building the momentum. It helps with facilitating the recruitment of other players in that class. So definitely feels like a big thing. But 2026 is a long way off. So I don't think anyone at USC should be counting the chickens before they hatch. This is clearly a commitment to Lincoln Riley. And why wouldn't you, as a young 5-star quarterback, commit to Lincoln Riley?
Right.
But 2026 is a long way off. We'll see what happens when we get there.
Yeah, it seems good for now. That's all I got to add. You want the number one quarterback in the country. Absolutely. I think the landscape of college football has sort of changed with how we look at quarterback recruits because so many of them transfer and whatnot, but you still want first right of refusal on everybody. You want the number one guy. So hopefully for SC's sake, that holds firm for the next, 3 years. It's going to be a long time, but we'll see how that all comes to be. Let's go to the other news, the big stuff that came out on Wednesday today. Alicia, Reggie Bush is suing the NCAA, and he held a press conference at the Coliseum. Tell us all about this.
Yes. First and foremost, the press conference was not sponsored by USC in any way. Apparently, you can just rent out the what is that club? The club
1923.
1923. Yes, the 1923 club. You can just rent it out. Apparently, it's like $6,000. So if you have $6,000 lying around, spare change,
as we all do,
you can go host a party there or a press conference there. But if you're Reggie Bush, it certainly seems like a good venue to hold your press conference, where you basically take a sledgehammer to the NCAA at every turn, essentially. So yes, he is suing the NCAA for defamation relating to a 2021 press release statement that was given after NIL rules were changed. So multiple outlets reached out to the NCAA after the NIL legislation was put forward to ask if Reggie Bush would have any relief in terms of his records or his Heisman, given that that change in legislation. And the NCAA released a statement that said, essentially, no, we're not reinstating Reggie Bush's records, which is implied not his Heisman, because that's what needs to happen in order to get his Heisman renewed.
Hold on, can we? Not renewed, we have the statement, right? The statement which said NCAA rules still do not permit pay for play type arrangements. The NCAA infractions process exists to promote fairness in sports. The rules that govern fair play were voted on, agreed to, and expected to be upheld by all NCAA membership schools.
Yeah, that was the second half of the statement. So the first half of the statement was essentially like, no. And then that was the sort of back half of the statement.
Yeah.
And Reggie Bush and his lawyers read that statement and they see the phrase pay for play type arrangements. And they say, hold up. Who said pay for play?
Yeah.
Who ever accused Reggie Bush of pay for play? That's been the funny part, is that if you're a USC fan, there's a good chance that you have been fighting the good fight for the last decade to explain to people that the Reggie Bush situation was not pay for play, that it was not a USC booster or USC itself enticing Reggie Bush to come to USC, that it was not a USC booster or USC itself paying Reggie Bush to play for USC. It was a would-be agent who was giving money and other, paying for things for Reggie Bush's family in the hopes of Reggie, when he left for the NFL, signing for his fledgling sports agency. There was never discussion of pay for play. USC did not get in trouble for pay for play. USC got in trouble exclusively for lack of institutional control that was tied to essentially a failure to monitor Reggie Bush. It was about, it was the whole line about high profile athletes require high profile compliance. And that is a sort of a big factor in the entire Reggie Bush narrative, is that it was never about pay for play. And the implication that Reggie Bush was getting paid for play is flat out 100% false. So Reggie's lawsuit is taking that line and sort of running it and saying that the lawsuit says the statement was completely false and highly offensive, and they claim that Bush's reputation was substantially and irreparably damaged by that statement, which they're alleging basically the statement reinforced the misunderstanding that was widely accepted by college football fans about or by people at large about what Reggie Bush is accused of having done. So it's very interesting. Number one, defamation is extremely difficult to prove if you are a public figure. So this is not necessarily a slam dunk case, even if you and I can look at this and say, like, they said pay for play type arrangements in reference to questions about Reggie Bush's infractions, and like it's pretty cut and dry that they screwed that up. But it sort of takes it rises to malice. I think we may see the Todd McNair ruling play a role in all of this if it goes further than anything.
If it goes like 18 years, like that thing.
I mean, yeah, but the ruling that Todd McNair was able to get, which basically found that the NCAA did indeed, with malice, tarnish the reputation of Todd McNair. It does give Reggie a bit of a leg up here, but it's still, I think it's still a very uphill climb. To me, what all of this is Reggie Bush putting pressure on the NCAA to just cave and reinstate his records, and that will allow the Heisman Trust to reinstate his Heisman, which will allow him to be in good standing in sort of the college football world, and then everybody can just sort of move on from all of this. So I don't think the goal here is to win a lawsuit. I think the goal is just to put pressure on the NCAA just to cave. And to be quite frank, they should just cave. This is stupid to be spending time on this in 2023. The week before the 2023 college football season starts, what we're talking about is the NCAA's overreaching ruling about an infractions case from over a decade ago, from now going almost 2 decades ago from when the alleged infractions occurred. And this is what we're talking about. The NCAA should just should accept that striking records is stupid in the first place, reinstate the records, let Reggie get his Heisman back, and then everyone moves on. Like it shouldn't be that. It shouldn't be this difficult. But Reggie has to put pressure on the NCAA, and there's never been a better time to do it because there's never been a more the landscape of college football has never been more open to siding with Reggie Bush on this.
Right. Yeah. I look at this multiple ways. One, for the NCAA, why would you overturn something that was against the rules at the time? At the same time, the entire landscape has changed. We know the Menzel stuff. We know the Cam Newton stuff, which is the giant unfairness of all of this, right?
Yeah.
But I think the crazy thing, I go to Tim in the chat that says it's funny, all the NCAA had to do was say no. With all the extra stuff, they opened themselves up to this defamation lawsuit. Yeah. How many of us have jobs in the corporate world? We see how many times things have to go to legal in some sort, right? That's just what things do.
Mm-hmm.
Every statement about anything that the NCAA puts out should go to legal.
Yeah.
How did their legal department allow that phrase to be in there? All you have to do is delete that one sentence.
Mm-hmm. It's wild that they even instituted that statement the way all they had to do was no, we're not reinstating Reggie's records.
Right.
The rules that govern fair play are voted on, agreed to, and expected to be upheld by all NCAA member schools. That's it.
Yeah.
Very simple.
It's all silly.
But there was other stuff. So the defamation suit is all silly and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to go over some nuggets from the press conference that I think are interesting and worth considering as USC goes into a new football season. So the lawyers say they expect the number 5 to be back at the Coliseum soon, but they haven't been told, like they haven't been given that guarantee.
Yeah.
Arash Markazi had sort of drummed up some of this idea on Tuesday night when he tweeted that he was told that the day when Reggie Bush's jersey will be re-retired will come sooner than expected under USC AD Jennifer Cohen. And he posted a picture of the current layout of the peristyle where they have new Heisman banners, which, by the way, look beautiful. The peristyle.
They're not the jerseys, but they look like very nice.
They're beautiful. Arash quote tweeted an old tweet that he had put where he had an old photo of the peristyle with the video screens up and all of the other stuff going on around the peristyle, and then like to compare and contrast that with what the restored peristyle looks like just reinforces what a beautiful thing that USC did with the renovation in terms of the peristyle and fixing all that. So yeah, as an aside. But there is this sort of growing sense that that where the banners are, there are two gaps open, and we obviously are going to see the 13 go up there at some point. We don't know if it'll be this season or next season, or how the timing on Caleb Williams getting his jersey retired. We'll find that out. But there is a gap for the 5th, for the 8th Heisman, for the number 5. So if USC wants to put that banner up, they have it. Two other things real quick. Reggie's lawyers said that USC submitted an appeal to overturn the NCAA investigation and reinstate Bush's records recently. Clearly that did not go anywhere. And then also the big question that I had rumbling around my head is, would Reggie Bush, who is currently not employed by Fox Sports anymore and won't need to be dealing with the sort of Saturday football coverage and stuff like that, so his schedule is open. He says that he has been asked to lead the team out of the tunnel multiple times, but he will not lead the team out of the tunnel until he has his Heisman with him. So that answers that question.
Yeah, the picture that was out on Twitter of the peristyle, the new retired number jerseys, little banner things, look great. But there's also the addition of new tarps in the corners over by the clock and the thermometer. Kenny in the chat says those are beautiful, but the tarps less so. Yes. And Michael in the chat, great name by the way, says scantily clad peristyle, which is what we've always talked about, right? The tarps sort of take away from the scantily clad peristyle.
I'm okay with the tarps.
They've taken down the Audi suites, which is good. But like, you know what they should do? I understand that they're not selling those, like those seats over by the clock and the thermometer don't exactly sell.
They're either obstructed view if you're lower, or they're
the obstructed view seats are gone. They took those out years ago, okay. But they added more seats at the bottom level, but then up on the top by as high as the peristyle is. Yeah, they put the tarps there. And they haven't really sold those since like the Texas game, right? Why don't they take a page out of the Wrigley playbook and cover those sections in like juniper bushes?
Are juniper bushes?
I don't know.
Are those native to Southern California, Michael?
Why not? Figure out if they are.
You want a bunch of cacti? At the Coliseum.
Are juniper bushes cacti?
No, I'm saying like native to Southern California.
No, okay. How about make it like the Hanging Gardens of Babylon? There you go. Suddenly you've got like 2 ancient ruins like honored at the Coliseum in one. Like, how awesome would that be? Basically, those things are, something needs to be there. If people are not in those seats, then something needs to be there. The tarps, I understand why they're there, but they're still tarps. We made fun of UCLA for putting tarps in the Rose Bowl last year. Like, it's silly not to sit here and say the same thing about the Coliseum too, right?
The tarps that UCLA put up are very different from, like, the UCLA tarped over perfectly decent seats at the Rose Bowl.
I agree.
No one wants to sit in those seats.
I agree. At the same time, they're still tarps. So, all right, let's get to some other news. Talk about the 2023 season a little bit, and injury news. Solomon Tuliaupupu is out for the season. He suffered a knee injury during camp and is undergoing surgery. He may return for 2024. God knows he still has eligibility. He got here in 2018, the 2018 class, and Alicia, this is his history at USC so far. He missed 2018 after preseason foot surgery. He missed 2019 after another foot surgery. He missed 2020 after knee surgery from an injury in summer workouts. He missed 2021, still recovering from said knee injury. He played all 14 games last year, made 10 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, and then comes back this year and again injures his knee and is going to be out for the season. He's only played 1 year.
And he's got the
COVID
year of eligibility.
Like we talk about Britton Covey, like Solomon Tuliaupupu theoretically could like argue for like 4 more red shirts.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I'm very sad for him.
It's awful that he has to deal with this.
Especially because he was talked about, after last season, he had a fairly productive season as a contributor off the bench for USC on the defensive line. He sort of transformed his body to be able to play in the position that he was playing in. Came into this season, and he was talked about as somebody who was going to be in the rotation on the defensive line, who was going to be a regular player there for USC. And then this happens. It's just like the number of what ifs on Solo's career are many, as you've laid out all of these injuries, and it just is a huge, huge bummer. I
don't know. I don't know where you go from here besides, just trucking along still. And
I mean, if he wants to keep playing football, I hope that USC gives him the opportunity to keep playing football.
Absolutely.
If he wants to walk away after ravaging his body the way that his body has been ravaged, right? Who could blame him?
Right.
The whole GoPro and something other than sports. I don't know. It's at a certain point, guys who deal with injuries to this degree have to make that decision. And we will see what he does. He can get through this knee recovery and then go from there.
Yeah, it's just crazy. I look at the guys that SC has had been ravaged by injuries: Kevin Arbet, Josh Pinkard, Herschel Dennis, Daniel Marabebe, and Solomon Tuliaupupu has like twice the number of injuries as those guys, which is just
twice the number
wild.
Of season-ending injuries. Yeah.
Arbet was always the one I really felt bad for. He missed his senior year is gonna be 2003. Misses it with an injury. SC wins the national title.
Yeah.
Comes back in 2004. Misses it with a season injury. SC wins the national title. Comes back in 2005, and we know what happened.
Yeah.
He did get the 2 rings, though. That's the important part. All right, let's get to talking about USC and San Jose State. Week 0, USC and the Spartans playing 5 p.m. Pacific Pac-12 Network. The Spartans coming into the Coliseum at 7-5 last year. These teams haven't met in 2 years. The Trojans opened the 2021 season with a 30-7 romp over the Spartans, but it wasn't a romp. It was 13-7 going into the fourth quarter. SC sort of needed a pick 6 from Greg Johnson that they got in that game. The defense was solid, but the offense could not do much in that game against San Jose State. But this is a different San Jose State team. The defense from the Spartans was very good last year, but they were led by the best pass rusher in the Mountain West, Valiami Fehoko, 18 tackles for loss a year ago, but he's gone. The Spartans need to replace 2 starting defensive ends. The defensive line is going to be a big question mark, even though they performed well last year. So I think that's going to be something to be sort of interested about. But they return Chevin Cordero at quarterback, who's the transfer from Hawaii. It's going to be sort of an interesting one, but SC, of course, heavily favored in this one. USC is 5-0 all time against San Jose State. All those games at the Coliseum, and just about all of them season openers for the Trojans as well. The way we're doing previews this year, Alicia will look at one side of the ball. I will look at the other, and then sort of convene here to sort of discuss. Alicia, I took the San Jose State defense, which means looking at the USC offense against the San Jose State defense. Let's start look at the numbers last year. Um, San Jose State ranked 94th on the SP Plus unit defense. Not great. USC was number 2 in the country on offense in SP Plus. Pretty damn good. Again, this is a 3-4 defense. They got to replace those guys on the defensive end side of the things. It all comes down to the big playmakers that the Spartans have in the secondary. Trey Jenkins is back as a grad senior, 3-year starter, 180 tackles, 46 games played for him. He's played in 5 seasons already. This is going to be year number 6 for him. 60 tackles a year ago, couple picks. He's going to be playing alongside Chase Williams, who sounds familiar because he should. He was a USC transfer, left USC a couple years ago, and now he is playing with San Jose State. It's going to be year number 2 for him up in Silicon Valley. And then Byron Parham, middle linebacker, another guy to keep an eye on. Returning starter, led the team in tackles in 2022. Alicia, for you, when you look at this San Jose State defense and knowing what USC's doing on offense, what's your assessment of this game?
Well, I mean, the question really is can any defense on USC's schedule slow down Caleb Williams and company? And I guess my question for you about the San Jose State defense would be, if they were to find a way to pull an Oregon State here, what is it? What is the X factor that gets them through?
I don't know that there is one. I think that this is a different game if Vahoko's there. We know that SC has some trouble on the offensive line when it comes to pass block. SC is an elite run blocking team. Pass protection is an issue. We've talked about this for a couple years now, right? And you look at the numbers last year, the Spartans were 4th in sack rate, 6th in sacks per game. They were very effective in getting to the quarterback. And I think that even though Caleb Williams is mobile and nimble and can move around in the pocket, that might be an early week 1 struggle. Week 0 struggle, right? In the season opener. You never know if things are rusty to start with the offensive line. They haven't gelled for a full season yet, especially with a lot of incoming guys as transfers. At the same time, there's not a lot of experience on this Spartan defensive line. They got to replace Fahoko and Cade Hall, who's the other defensive end on the other side, with Trey Smith. 1 career game played. He's going to start for the Spartans on Saturday. And Noah Lavulo, who has 12 career tackles. I don't think that this is really a challenge for USC's offensive line that way, especially when you look at the 2 nose tackles are back for the Spartans. But those guys were co-starters last year too. It's not like one of them is way ahead of the other. They've been listed as an or on the depth chart for two seasons now. I don't know. I think that this is exactly the type of game where you look to get chemistry for USC's offensive line sort of right away.
So will this game tell us anything about USC's offensive line, though?
I mean, no, but like we've sort of talked about the first 6 games. What are they going to tell you about USC in general? I don't know, and I think this one in particular is, unless Fahoko is there with more eligibility, I don't think there's anything that you could necessarily learn about the offensive line, unless the offensive line is just that rusty and that incompatible because it's week 0. You know what I mean?
So it's like we talked about, where we're not gonna learn anything if USC rolls, because they should roll.
Yeah.
The only thing we can potentially learn is if they really struggle, then
if they really struggle, it's not on paper as it stands right now, because they got beat by a guy who is a really good player who could end up in the draft like Fahoko.
Yeah, so Fahoko
was a mid-round pick. Like he's a Sunday player who legitimately could play in the Power 5. If he beats you, he beats you. He's not here. So, you know what I mean?
So there's no excuses is
No,
sort
there's
of what
no
I'm
excuses.
hearing.
No. And then you look on the back end, the Spartans were susceptible to the pass. They do bring back Jenkins and Chase Williams. Chase Williams, the former USC safety, of course, 41 tackles last year, 1 tackle for loss. I think Trey Jenkins might be the more interesting guy in that he had 7 tackles for loss, led the Spartans in all the returners that are back this year in tackles for loss, and he was a safety. You never see that. He was 3rd among all Mountain West DBs last year in tackles for loss, which is pretty interesting. He's someone who could be all over the place and sort of making tackles for San Jose State left and right. But even still, I think this is a matchup that is all USC, certainly, on offense.
It certainly doesn't bode well for USC that the players that we feel like highlighting are at the back of the defense.
Right.
Like that if I'm San Jose State, I'm a little bit worried about that being the takeaway there, right?
Right. Yeah, and I think the interesting thing for the Trojans is, what do you expect this offense to look like in week 1 when week 0, I'm never going to get used to saying week 0. What do you expect them to look like when they have to break in a couple of, there's a couple of freshman running backs. I assume that they will get playing time. There's so many different receivers that will get playing time. I can't imagine this is a situation where the starters play the entire game, especially one where SC is predicted to, the Vegas spread, which we're going to get to a little bit later, is 30 points, right? Like, this should be a manageable game from USC's perspective, especially on offense. I don't know what to expect in terms of anything, but the Trojans should have their way on offense.
That's what I would expect for the most part. Again, it takes an elite defense to stop this offense,
Sure.
and this ain't it.
All right, let's turn the page and talk about the San Jose State offense, of course, led by Chevan Cordero. Tell me about him.
Yes, Chevan Cordero, the Mountain West preseason offensive player of the year. He is really the one to talk about on this offense, which, to be frank, is not super inspiring. They can appear to be able to move the ball at times last year, but got stopped up whenever they played a decent team. They lost to Auburn, they lost to Fresno State, and really just sort of got stopped in their tracks. And I think part of that is because Cordero is going to make things happen, or he's going to run into a better defense in front of him that's going to just sort of put the brakes on the whole thing. They do return, in addition to the quarterback, they return a Mountain West preseason all-conference receiver in Justin Lockhart, who transferred to Nevada last year. He had 578 yards and a touchdown last year, and returns as the sort of the lead receiver for Cordero. He's also got a tight end back, a few tight ends back, in fact, but Dominic Mazzotti is the big one. Against UNLV last year, he had a career-high 100 yards on a career-high 7 catches and a touchdown. So I sort of looked at some of the highlights from that game, and you could see how Cordero was going to try and depend on him a little bit in the middle of the field. And so that's something definitely for USC's linebackers to take note of. When it comes down to it, there's very little about the San Jose State offense that should worry USC, which should give us a decent indication about where the defense sort of stands relative, right? Like, there's this offense is just a whole bunch of meh, unless you're looking at Cordero, who is a threat with his legs, who will evade the pass rush and get the ball out down the field, who's a threat on a read option, who is a threat on sort of draws, QB draws, and the like. That's something that USC's defense is very much going to need to keep an eye on. And you can sort of imagine, for USC's defense, if they get gashed in this game, it will all start with Cordero being the guy who gashes them and makes them look silly. But that comes down to the USC defense being the USC defense for better or worse, right?
Yeah, I like the matchup against Cordero in the sense that I think this is a precursor to guys like Jaden DeLaura,
Yes.
who could potentially give you some fits. We know that DeLaura gave SC fits last year. Someone who's got some spunk to him can be a little bit of a scrambler. I wouldn't say a pure runner. Last year, you look at the rushing yards. Cordero ran for 265 yards. Only a couple times did he have more than 50. He's not going to run for a billion yards on you, but he's going to pick his spots.
Yes, and that's the danger for the USC defense, because he's capable of picking his spots. If you give him that room, he's not going to force the run. They're not going to insist on running with him. It's all going to be by not necessarily by design, but by what's in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
So if USC gives him that lane, he will take it and he will run with it, and he is capable of making a man miss. So it's going to be interesting to see what USC's defense does to try to counteract that. I don't know that he's dangerous enough on the run to commit a spy to him, but you do need everybody on your defense to be tactically aware enough to understand that he is a threat to take off. You need to keep an eye on him almost so that you don't get into trouble. And that is something that USC was not necessarily good at last year, in terms of everybody on the field being tactically aware of what their job was and what the job of the guy next to them was, and all of that. They were susceptible to a lot of things. And that is the thing that we need to see USC's defense improve upon, is just being in the right place, being where you're supposed to be, and taking care of your business. And if they do that, I do not think that the San Jose State offense presents all that much of a problem. But we know that USC still has to answer the question of whether or not they're capable of doing that and making a mid offense look mid, which is sort of what you're looking for from this team.
It would be a good sign for SC, given the development they need from last year, because like you look at the numbers that are on the screen right now, this is absurd. SC was 111th in points per drive last year. It's atrocious. All these numbers, they're over 106th in, right?
Yeah.
Like those are horrendous numbers. If that's what the USC defense is going to be this year, it's going to be difficult to really deal knockout blows early on in games, to get Miller Moss involved and to get all these other these rotational players time to develop as it goes on, when they're playing opponents who SC should be beating by 30, according to what the casinos are saying, right? Like,
yeah, and that's the issue, is that USC made a lot of offenses last year that were decent to good look good to great.
Right.
You think about just Cal. Like, Cal is a really good example of a team that should not have been able to produce the offense that they produced against USC, but it was USC's offense being so bad that it sort of elevated the other
USC's
side.
Defense, yeah.
Sorry, USC's defense being USC's defense elevated what the opposing offense was capable of in their better moments. One thing that I think is one sort of storyline that I think is really intriguing for a USC defense that looked pretty decent last year, in large part because they generated as many turnovers as they did at the start of the season. San Jose State, if you want to talk about one thing that they do well, aside from the fact that Cordero can make plays, is that they don't turn the ball over. And that's one of the big, like, you compared Cordero to Jaden DeLaura, and I think that might be a fair comparison, except for one massive difference. Cordero takes care of the football. 6 interceptions last year. He doesn't, he's not going to take too many risks. They don't fumble the football. At least they didn't last year. So this is a game where you go in and say, you look at the USC defense and you say, you might not be able to rely on the boom or bust of the turnover thing.
Yeah. That's where I think the Laura comparison falls apart, because I think the Laura is more talented, bigger arm, surely. But I think they play a similar game, but have completely different tendencies and embodiments, right? Because Cordero seems like someone who plays very, refined in his game, back from his time at Hawaii and now at San Jose State. Whereas Delora, I said the other day, he's the most gunslinger to ever gunslinger, right? Like, because that's who he is.
Yes, and
that's what makes him good, but that's who he is.
And that might be a limiting factor for someone like Cordero, who is going to take what's there. And against USC's defense, like maybe that would be enough. But if USC's defense tightens up and takes care of business, then it's going to be a limiting factor.
Right.
The San Jose State offense does return 4 starters on the offensive line. So they have veteran experience coming back on the offensive line. But it is worth noting that none of those offensive linemen have any, notable honors to speak of. No Mountain West, all Mountain West team, no preseason all Mountain West team players. So this will be an interesting matchup, I think, for USC's defensive front, this rebuilt defensive front, to sort of get their feet wet and go against a group that is not that is a group that is veteran and familiar with playing each other, but not necessarily overly exceptional.
Sure.
So I will be looking for to be able to gauge USC's defensive front going up against that group, because it's not like you expect that group to be a dumpster fire. I don't think they will be, but they won't be anything special compared to what USC will be facing later on in the season. So this almost feels like, even more so than I expected as an offense, as a perfect testing ground of medium for USC's defense to go up against. Because the quarterback is good, but he's not exceptional, and the rest of the offense is capable, but nothing special.
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting week 0 test. Definitely looking forward. I think Nevada and Stanford, I think, are probably worse off on offense than San Jose State. But still, San Jose State is a team that wasn't great last year. 7-5, sort of a middling Mountain West team that was really low in a lot of the SP Plus rankings. This should be a team that SC should whack, right? Like, just whack around like that. There's a reason that the spread is 30 points, and it's on USC to sort of find a way to make that come true. Let's get into some over-under, shall we?
So you're going over.
I'm feeling bold. Give me that over.
I'll go under. I got to take an under here. I got 3 unders to take.
I'm going to do an under here.
All right, Alicia. If you are new to the show, the way we do over-under is Alicia picks 3 lines. I pick 3 lines. We then have the other person make the pick that sets the house pick, and then we throw together a Google form and have you guys, the Rotbots, join us as well. So if you're in the chats here on YouTube, you can click the link and join us and play along. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or on YouTube later on, wherever you may be listening to us, check the description. The link is in there as well, so you can play along. We can track the winners. Because we've been doing this last few years and it's been super fun. 2020, Ryan from AZ, Ryan from Arizona, and Jonathan split the title. 2021, it was Adam and Clint in Pittsburgh who split the title as 1 entry. And then 2022, Ryan from Arizona again won. 2-time champ, this time outright. So yeah, you guys want to play, and you want to go in there and beat Ryan from Arizona. You don't want to let him win a 3rd title. Come on. So, all right, Alicia, what's your first over-under?
All right, my first over-under is 14.5, and that is points for San Jose State. I'm going very simple, direct with this one, 14.5. Rice had 14 in the opener last year. San Jose State had 16 against Auburn last year. They had 10 against Fresno State. This is, I think it's not asking too much of USC's defense if we expect this defense to be better than they were last year, to limit a team like San Jose State to somewhere around 14 points. The closer that San Jose State gets to 20 points, the more my anxiety will rise.
Right.
And my anxiety might rise anyways, even if they only give up 3 points, if it's all, 75-yard drives and then red zone turnovers or something.
Missed field goals or whatnot.
Yeah. Yeah, but we're just going to keep it straight, keep it basic. First over under of the year. Let's just keep it normal.
Yeah, I'm leaning over here, and the reason is because I think 14 kind of sounds exactly right. To me, this is a week 0 game. SC's got to get better on defense. That's the side of the ball that needs the most improvement. I think in week 0, season opener, there absolutely is an opportunity for San Jose State to score some points here, maybe as the Trojans start to rotate guys on in the second half. This is a game where I think SC wins comfortably. We're going to get to that, a little bit later when we get our score predictions. But as far as the points go, exactly, I give it to San Jose State to take the over on 14.5, which locks you into the under.
Yeah, as my prediction will be coming later, I will decline to say whether or not I am happy about that.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to my first over under, which is 249.5 Caleb Williams passing yards. He had exactly 249 against Rice last year in week 1. So can he match that? Can he get better than 249 yards that he had a year ago? Spencer Rattler had 304 for Oklahoma against Tulane in 2021. That's more than 249, but that was a close game. Tulane, a better team than this San Jose State team that USC is playing this year. Rattler also had 290 against Southwest Missouri State out of the FCS in 2020, which is his first starts. Again, that's more than 249. Baker Mayfield, probably the best comparable to what Caleb Williams is right now, someone who returning after being a Heisman finalist. Baker Mayfield in 2017 had 329 passing yards against UTEP in a 56-7 win. That's probably the closest proxy. That's an over too, but again, Caleb Williams only had 249 last year against Rice, coming off the injury last December. Over under 249 passing yards.
This one's always a crapshoot because USC could blow them out 60-0, and he could end up with 230 passing yards, and you wouldn't necessarily think anything of it. I still think that when it comes to Caleb Williams, I'm going to just in general bet overs because I think that this is a Heisman defense. I think that he will want to set a very strong tone initially. I think that USC will go out there and have a pretty vanilla game plan, but that doesn't mean that it'll all just be running the ball. I think that they have too many receivers, too many tight ends, too many guys that they want to get involved in the passing game for them not to have those passing concepts get shown off at least in some way. So I'm going over on this.
All right. That works for me because I like the under, which locks me into the under because I think there's so much change on San Jose State's defensive line. This might be a game where I think SC might just run a ton early on in the game too. Obviously, you expect a lot of passing in the first half comparative to the second half, but I think there'll be a lot of running as well from the Trojans. We'll see what happens there. Let's go to your next over-under. What do you got?
Old standard. Tight end catches. Tight end touches. 1.5 tight end touches. And I said that because Lake McCree had one catch in last year's opener. And that was the one tight end touch of the game. In fact, USC's tight ends last year averaged across the board 1.2 catches per game. So it's a low line, but also, as I just got done saying, there's a whole bunch of guys who need to eat in this offense, and the tight ends are not necessarily high up there on that pecking order.
No, but if you get two tight ends, one catch, that's an over.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I just sort of think that there's just too many possible dudes who could do this.
Yes, who are those dudes?
Well,
though?
SC doesn't have a million tight ends. No,
so it's Lake McCree and Jude Wolf.
Those are still 2 dudes.
That's 2 dudes.
I think there's an over. I think there's an over. BB in the chat says easy over here. I agree. This is an over for me.
I like
easy
it.
over is in like it's going to be 2 or 3, but like
I flirted with 2.5, but even that felt uncertain.
Yeah, give me the over there. Maybe it's a little risky. We'll see. All right, Alicia, what's my next one is going to be Mason Cobb tackles over under 6.5 Mason Cobb tackles. Shane Lee had 8 last year against Rice for some intel there, and Cobb averaged 8 tackles per game last year at Oklahoma State. It's week 0. He's going to get his first start as a Trojan. He's a newly named captain. 6.5.
Ooh, well, this is tough because it's like a question of how much is Mason Cobb going to play.
Right.
So my understanding of how things are going for USC at the linebacker spot is that we can expect to see Tackett Curtis. I saw a quote from Alex Grin saying that Tackett Curtis will have a big role to play in the game. And part of that, I think, is because Eric Gentry is still getting back from that ankle injury. Shane Lee is maybe not at his healthiest. Rajon Davis has dealt with an injury in fall camp. So it's almost like, does USC have the luxury to have Mason Cobb be in there only for when the game is in question? And then how quickly can they get him out of there to sort of preserve him? How much is Shane Lee going to play? How much is Eric Gentry going to play? Because if those guys aren't available and it's like you have Mason Cobb, but you're taking him out for somebody who's way further down the pecking order at linebacker, it gets a little fudgy.
Right.
I'm not sure about it. So I'm going the over on this just because I think that Mason Cobb will have to play even if the game is not particularly close for long. And also he is a volume tackler. I think he's just going to be out there getting involved in plays across the board. And I feel okay with taking 6.5. If you had it at 7.5, I'd be much more likely to take that over because I just sort of, my gut says 7.
Yeah, that's where I was kind of thinking. Like I thought 7.5 might bait you too much into the
under.
Yeah. Yeah, this is tough because I feel like it's either going to be 6, 7, or 8. And 7 and 8 are both obviously qualify as an over win for you. But yeah, it's just a matter of how much is he going to play? How close is this game? But at the same time, if he's a tackle machine, like he showed at times that he could be at Oklahoma State, what if he ends up having 4 on the first drive? Then suddenly he's going to get that number regardless of how much he plays, right? So I don't know. Well, we'll see. I think if you're SC, you want him to be getting the tackles and not Kalen Bullock or any of the DBs because they're not getting to the second level. So we'll see how that one goes. Let's go to the next over-under. What do you got?
All right. I am going with sacks by 2023 transfers. Not to get this all convoluted, but USC had a lot of 2023 transfers on defense and a lot of them in the front 7. So this is sacks by the likes of, just to set it out.
Yeah.
By the likes of Keon Bars, Anthony Lucas, Bear Alexander, Jamil Muhammad, Jack Sullivan, Mason Cobb. I'll throw Christian Roland Wallace in there in case he's blitzing off the edge. But I believe that covers the group of people that I'm talking about. So when I say transfers, players who get sacks who were transfers, I am not referring to someone like Solomon Byrd who transferred last year and is now on the defense, or
Romello Height doesn't count.
Romello Height would not count. No, exactly. So sacks in this game by players who transferred in 2023. And I'm setting it at 3.5.
Sure. Yeah. I thought long and hard about this when we were putting together the show notes. And it's been difficult to sort of come to a way to put like 3.5 of any cluster of players sounds crazy, right? Like it sounds like a lot. Like if you would have said last year 3.5 sacks by um um Julie, like I wasn't gonna. There's no way I was gonna take that, right? At the same time, that's you name like all the players that are going to be playing in the front seven. I think SC can have a game where they have like 4 sacks, and all of them come from these dudes. Because if it's not these dudes, who is it going to be? Tackett Curtis? I guess Solomon Bird, right? Like Romello Height. Like there's only a few handful of those guys. There's seemingly more transfers than not. So give me the transfers. Give me the transfers to take the over on the 3.5 sacks.
Yeah, I mean, it felt like a lot setting it at 3.5, but like you said, that's the majority of the rotation.
Right. Yeah.
Where this gets tricky is the likes of Solomon Bird and Romello Height sort of mucking things up for you or any Rotbots who take the over, because there is a world where USC gets 5 sacks and they come from Bird and Height and Tyrone Taleni and the rest of the guys who have returned from last year. That could be interesting.
There's a former number 1 overall recruit there,
Corey Foreman.
Yeah.
You never know.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the last one. Mine paid attendance. 62,500. 62,500. Last year, the Rice game, week 1, had an announced attendance of 60,113. Can they get over 62.5?
They better.
I would hope so.
I am going a hard over on this, specifically because, number one, USC won 11 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
They put an exciting product on the field last year. This game is not in the middle of the heat wave death zone at the Coliseum.
Yeah.
It's at 5 p.m. Ideal start time. Excitement for this season, returning a Heisman Trophy winner, being ranked in the top 10, all of that should have people ready to go. Maybe USC gets a little bit of help on the attendance front because San Jose State is not that far away, and if there are Spartans fans, they can very easily drive down. They're not going to travel
like Fresno State, though.
No, but like maybe they boost up relative to the trip that Rice says.
Sure.
If it's under, then shame on the USC fan base. That's all I have done a lot of defending of the USC fan base. As Kenny says in the chat, tickets on StubHub are cheap.
Yes, but remember, this is paid attendance. Tickets on StubHub
have already
accounted for.
This is true. Yes. No, I have spent a lot of time defending the USC fan base over attendance criticism from all corners of the college football world. And I will not defend them this year because in the past I understood Clay Helton did not put a product on the field that was fun to watch half of the time.
Right.
The fan base got beaten down by the
big excuse was that people weren't spending because they didn't want to watch a Clay Helton team. Yeah.
The head coach is Lincoln Riley. The quarterback is Caleb Williams. The ranking is number 6. The expectations are college football playoff. If you're not coming out to the Coliseum for this game, then you are not a fan. I'm sorry. Not what?
Wow.
I say that for people who would normally like go to a USC game. There's a lot of people who don't go to the Coliseum and they have good reasons for it because they live elsewhere.
Sure.
You're fine. You'd be like my dad, who has literally never gone to. He's gone to USC games because tickets were given to him, but his operating procedure is to watch from home. But I know that there are more than 62,000 fans who are ready and willing to go to USC football games at the Coliseum. And if it's less, then, well, that sucks.
This has been my thing forever. As I get it. There's a lot of things to do in LA. There's a lot of things to do in California. I get it. There's also like 15 million people within an hour and a half, 2-hour drive of the Coliseum. Like, you should not have trouble, especially when you have Lincoln Riley and the Heisman winner. And yes, it's San Jose State. Yes, we're not talking about the Washington game, but teams in the South draw when they're playing Southwest Missouri State or whatever. So yeah. All right. Let's get to our game predictions, Alicia. The best part of every pregame episode, because this is where we end up putting egg on our face. The Vegas spread, USC by 30.5. Last I checked. Bill Connolly's SP Plus projections has the Trojans by 34.5, with a projected score of 46-12. Alicia, what is your score prediction?
I am going all in. I have seen the USC offense under Lincoln Riley, and I am a believer. They are scoring 50 points in this game.
Okay.
I am choosing to believe that USC's defense has figured some things out. So I'm going with 9. 50-9.
50-9.
Yes.
Okay. Three field goals or a touchdown and a safety?
3 field goals.
Okay. That sounds pretty solid. Pretty solid from the defense. I'm going to go 55-17. I think this is a game where SC just gains 1 billion yards on offense, moves up and down the field pretty much at ease, no problem on that side of the ball. 55 means they're probably settling for a couple of field goals somewhere that could have been, a couple more touchdowns. The 17, mostly second half. I'm thinking mostly second half when the second string gets in there. Maybe this game is like something like 35-7 at half or something like that. That's the way I look at it. So, yeah, I think SC dominates the game. Miller Moss gets in there, and we go from there and see how the score lines up. All right, let's take a quick break and get to the mailbag.
You've got mail.
All right, Alicia, we got to start with a Rant Line phone call that we got from Dan in Valley Village.
Oh my goodness. I can't believe you're having a meetup. The first meetup of the year is literally maybe like 4 minutes from my house. This is Dan from Valley Village, and I can't believe it's at Shakey's at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock on Friday, which happens to be at the same time I'm doing a screening for my wife's new movie. This is my shameless plug. You're So Not Invited to My Bat Mitzvah, starring Adam Sandler and Idina Menzel, and it's on Netflix. But I so wish I could also meet up with you guys because you're so close to my house. I am so happy for the season to be back. I'm looking forward to catching up on another meetup. And otherwise, let's have a fun game week. Fight on. Let's get it. Take care.
Dan! That's always how it goes, though.
100%.
That's always how it goes. It's the one time that a thing is near you. It's on the one night where you already had something bigger going on that you can't possibly skip out on. And yes, we will give you the pass on this, Dan. Your wife's movie is definitely more important
100%.
than us. So number one, we'll check out the movie. Promise Dan has not paid us any money here, but I do like Adam Sandler and Idina Menzel. So wasn't Idina Menzel his wife in Uncut Gems as well? So
yes. Hopefully the relationship a little bit better.
A little bit better.
Yeah.
We'll be sad to miss you. We'll be sad to miss you, Dan.
Yeah, and we have this sort of same dilemma too, because one of our favorite things that we're super into right now is Jet Lag the Game. Jet Lag the Game is doing a premiere of the new season in LA on Friday night.
Yep.
Like, they're never in LA. They're finally in LA to do a new season. Super excited about it, and we can't even go.
Yep.
Because we got to meet up.
Because the robots matter more to us than Jet Lag.
Exactly. You guys all mean more to us, and we love you guys more than anything. So that's the important thing. We also love Alex in the chat, who
We
just
really,
popped in
really love Alex.
super chat. Big shout out. The super chat says, how many backups will play in this game? I think all of them. This is going to be a game, I think, where SC's got to, sort of unleash the bench. Not only because it's a game where I think SC has control of the scoreline. I think you want to do that in week 0 anyways. I think you're going to see a lot of rotation early on in the game, from all sorts of things, right? Like you're going to see the wide receivers. I wouldn't be surprised if the second drive of the game had like the second string wide receivers in there. I think you're going to see rotation in the backfield at running back a lot. I think that's sort of what you should expect in a season opener, especially one that's in week 0 that comes a week earlier. Obviously, SC had the same amount of preparation for the season in fall camp as everybody else did, but it's a week earlier, one more week to sort of get ready and rest bodies. It's an extra bye week the SC can get during the middle of the season. You might as well rotate a bit.
I want to see some freshmen. I want to see some freshmen in there. Mm-hmm. You have 4 games of redshirt eligibility that you can burn through. So I think it would be well within the norm to say, let's see Mekhi Lemon, let's see Quentin Joyner and Amarian Peterson, let's see guys like Braylon Shelby and Dejon Lafitte on the defensive line if they're good to go. Christian Pierce has gotten a lot of rave reviews in camp. I'd love to see him get out there and see some action. So bring on all the backups.
Yeah, Sam Green, Braylon Shelby,
Sam Green, all those guys. Yeah,
those guys would not count for transfer sacks.
They would not. No,
they are recruit sacks. So yeah, that's one to think about. We got a bunch of questions here in the chat on YouTube. Ernesto says, Alicia and Michael, what are you most excited for this season? What do you say?
I am excited to watch Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams cook. I cannot tell you how much joy it brought to my heart to watch an exciting USC offense again last year. Like, it's just, life is just brighter when you get to watch offense like that.
Yeah, 100%.
For USC uniforms. So I want them to shine that light into my life again.
I'm excited for big home games. Big home games at the Coliseum. This is a schedule that I think is going to be a blast. We talk about the first 6 games being sort of a cakewalk for SC, and that might be a little frustrating that SC has a run of games where they should be in control, and it might be like you're feeling like you're waiting forever to have a result that is truly validating for SC going forward. But that back half is going to be so freaking overloaded that every week, back to back, everything but the Cal game is like must-see TV. And even the Cal game, I think is going to be a difficult, close game because of all the other elements, involved. Cal always plays SC tough for some reason. And the game's in Strawberry Canyon. And it's the last weekender. And it's a potential trap game. Like, all those 6 games, I think, are going to be a doozy. And that's going to be a really fun ride in the Pac-12, especially a Pac-12 season that is loaded with incredible quarterbacks. Like, we sit here now and say that Caleb Williams is the best quarterback in not only the country, but in the Pac-12. But the reality is that, like, there's like 3 or 4 different quarterbacks in the Pac-12 who could be drafted first, depending on how their seasons go, right? I think Caleb Williams is the first guy taken in the NFL draft.
But if Caleb wasn't in there,
it wouldn't be the shocking thing.
Those would be the quarterbacks that would be talked about.
Yeah, because Michael Penix exists, right? Obviously, Derek May exists in the ACC, but we're not talking about the ACC right now. So, yeah. Incartum says, what do you think about Freddie's lawyer's interesting duo? I think he means Reggie.
He did correct it later on in the chat. Reggie's interesting duo. They're big names that are involved in sort of bigger, broader civil rights cases and stuff like that. So They know how to play a crowd. They know how to work their deal. They're not taking this on for no reason.
Yeah, and Reggie, he might be looking to get the most out of the NCAA, but it's not like he doesn't already is not like he's already loaded with the ability to go out there and get the best lawyers possible. So more power to you. If the NCAA has the lawyers that allowed that statement to be on the other side of the aisle, like that's going to be a tough one for the NCAA. So, Cameron says, with the lawsuit commencing, should he be okay with the settlement or try to get the max out of the NCAA? Earlier on, you said, Alicia, you think this is all settlement. Do you think that should be what the game plan is?
Everything should be geared towards a settlement that results in the restoration of his records.
Yeah, I think so.
It should be that simple to make this go away. If you're the NCAA,
should be. My concern, and one of the things where I am struggling to get invested in this, is the McNair thing lasted years and years and years, and I don't want to have to deal with another one of those things.
I can't speak.
I'm over it.
I can't speak for Reggie or his lawyers, so I could be completely off base on this. But McNair was that the legal battle with the NCAA was about his livelihood.
Right.
Reggie Bush is not.
It's about his legacy.
It's about his legacy, but it's not about, like, I can't imagine it's just about money the way that Todd McNair actually really needed that money.
But there is nothing more prideful than someone who has their legacy questioned.
This is true. I mean, but that's what, like, I'm saying, like, I don't know. If you're the NCAA, I don't think you have to part with that much money, because the number one thing that you're going to do is just reinstate the records.
Yeah.
The only thing that would stop the NCAA from doing that is, like, if they just don't want to set a precedent that then causes others to come out. But, like,
what happens if the Heisman Trust gives the Heisman back, but the NCAA doesn't instill the records?
Well, the Heisman Trust says that they won't give the Heisman back,
so they're just passing the buck.
They passed the buck because the records don't exist, which is very stupid.
Yeah. All right. Charles' son says, "Do you think we see the number 5 retired again this season?" I think it would be interesting. There's a lot of. First of all, I want the number retired for a big game. Ahead of a big game, I like. You retiring it at the Nevada game, for instance. I get the idea that, yeah, you against in a win that you can, maybe you get a sellout that you wouldn't have had otherwise, and all that stuff, and all the marketing side of things that way. But how, like, epic would it be to have the number retired? Like, this all gets settled right ahead of the Utah game or the Washington game, the UCLA game. Like, that would just feel more momentous, right?
Yes, but having seen that press conference today, I have now decided absolutely not. It will not be retired, because if Reggie says that he won't lead the team out of the tunnel until he has his Heisman, then I don't think there's a chance that Reggie Bush steps foot in the Coliseum with the intention of being there when USC retires his number, re-retires his number and restores it to the peristyle, unless he has his Heisman. And I don't think that this process will be this quick. So no, I'm firmly now on the side. For a second there, I was convinced it was happening on Saturday. For a second there, I was convinced. But just hearing him say that, to me, it all comes down to when he gets his Heisman back. All of these things will happen, and yeah, until he has the Heisman back, I don't think you can expect anything to happen.
With that said, I think the other thing is this even going to get settled during the season?
Yeah, no, I don't think so.
Because I don't know that's. I think the NCAA has other things. I mean, the lawyers can obviously deal with things during the season. It's not like they're playing football, but the Heisman Trust is going to be focused on, the Heisman stuff during the season and whatnot. So, and it's the ideal time to re-give Reggie his Heisman back is at the Heisman ceremony, but you would never do that, because that would be a dick move to whoever the Heisman finalists are this
It would
year,
also
right?
call attention to the Heisman Trust's stupidity in taking it away
Well,
in the first place.
this is true too. Like, but just imagine if like you win the Heisman and like 20 minutes before they gave it to Reggie.
Yeah.
Like that would suck. That would suck. So Fighting on MC says, is Reggie the only college player that's had his stats wiped off? No, any
No.
player that has been deemed ineligible has had their stats taken away. He's the most prominent, meaningful guy with the meaningful stats, in
And
part because of the Heisman Trophy.
The stats would not matter nearly as much if they weren't connected to the return of the Heisman Trophy.
Right.
At least that's my take.
Yeah, if the Heisman Trust didn't pass the buck and
This
just gave him the
wouldn't
thing
be
back, I
as
think
big of an issue.
nobody would care. But maybe the Heisman Trust needs to just reverse course.
The Heisman Trust shouldn't have taken it away in the first place.
Well,
It's very.
Yes, I agree. I agree. Touchdown USC says is Solo working on his PhD. I hope he gets another season. He might be. He might be.
I mean, yeah.
He's going to be the dean of something by the time he gets out.
Yeah, more power to him.
The Tuliapupu School of whatever he's
School of
majoring
Sports
in.
Medicine.
That who knows? He might have the experience at that point.
What's his major?
Unfortunately, like yeah. Kenny says, how early could Miller Moss come in for the Trojans?
If he enters the game in the third quarter, I will be very happy. I probably will lose that over under, but I will be very happy.
I think ideally, second drive of the third quarter is what you would imagine him to do. Me personally, start him in the third quarter.
Okay, Solo Tuliapupu earned his bachelor's degree in business administration in spring last year.
Mm-hmm.
He is currently pursuing his master's degree in project management. He has a GPA of 3.75.
Nice.
Good for him.
So he's agile. Yeah.
Yes.
Nice. Yeah. Coaches always talk about how they want the starter to come back in the third quarter and like get that first drive. I think that is like so overblown personally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's that. I understand the idea that you're building that rep, but also I think there's also value in having the backup go into the second half, treating it as if they are starting from the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's almost more valuable.
Yeah.
Especially Caleb Williams, a guy who's done everything already, right? He doesn't need that drive in the third quarter if SC is up 35-7 or whatever, right? You give it to Miller Moss at that point.
I would love that. We just don't see that. That would be a very bold move for USC.
Yeah. Tim says, I should have asked this in the season predictions podcast. What non-statistical things do you want to see that the team shows that they have improved on since last year?
Non-statistical things. For the record, it looks like Caleb played the whole third quarter.
He was in there pretty long
in the Rice game last year.
Yeah.
When USC was up 59-14. So, non-statistical. I think it's. Is it too broad to just say the eye test on the defense? I think a lot of it has to do with what I want to see is linebackers being where they're supposed to be on a play and making a play, which would certainly contribute to better statistical outputs, but mostly it's
right.
when you're watching the game, it looks like the linebacker is where they're supposed to be and making the stop that they're supposed to make. That it looks like the defensive line is not getting pushed around, that
right.
it looks like they know what. Like I said earlier, it's really, do I have the sense that all 11 players on the football field for USC on a given play know where they're supposed to be and understand their role, which by the end of last season was very much not the case.
Yeah. I think for me, it's about the defense pulling their weight when necessary. In a game like Utah, right, where you need to get a stop sometime, like
that's a good
in
one,
the second half, just get a stop. Like find a way to make a stop there, so that these games don't snowball. And both games against Utah, the games kind of snowballed, especially
And
the Pac-12
Tulane.
championship game late, the Tulane game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like when push came to shove, SC didn't make those stops on defense in the second half of the year. They did in the first half of the year. We saw that against, was it Fresno State? They made a stop on literally the last play of the game that made the score line look pretty. That would have changed things if they didn't.
Oregon State,
they forced 4 turnovers in the second half.
They made stops, but
right.
But yeah, it just I'm very much with you. It's the critical stop in the second half of games against good opponents.
Right. Especially a time where
and not the way it happened against UCLA, because I don't want to take it all away from Corey Foreman, but like that was a DTR mistake.
Well, to me it's less about the turnover aspect of it, and I'm okay. Like, I think you want to force other teams to make mistakes. I think that's part of what you want to do in football on defense. I think for me, it's to the sentiment of what you're saying is don't be susceptible against yards. It's either giving up yards and touchdowns or having an interception. Yeah. I think there's a middle ground there, which is just making a stop and getting a 3 and out. I don't know, forcing, instead of a touchdown, hold somebody to a field goal. Something like that, where you just have little positive momentum stops here and there throughout a game to prevent teams from hanging in there, especially when, the SC offense is trustworthy enough that you can expect them to get yards and points and points and points and points. This is going to be like the best offense in the history of USC football. Again.
Yeah.
At the same time, there's going to be a drive in a key game where Caleb misses a guy on 4th down or 3rd down, or a call doesn't go SC's way.
Yeah.
Or there's a key pivotal drop, right? Something where they didn't get points on a drive that you wanted points, and now the defense has pressure on them. Last year, there was no chance outside of the Oregon State game that SC was going to make that stop in the second half of a key game.
Mm-hmm.
They did get the interception against UCLA, sure, but like they let UCLA be in that game in the entire second half too. So you got to find a way to, make some key stops there. I think the other thing for me, and yes, this could be statistical, but not completely, is just more pass protection. Just more pass protection, allowing Caleb to naturally go about his business.
Let him be more comfortable.
Yeah, let him be more comfortable. Yeah. Let him pick and choose when he needs to run, rather than forcing him to scramble and be a miracle worker every time. Yeah. And maybe that means that he just runs for less yards. I don't think that's a bad thing. It's probably a good thing if that ends up being the case. So, yeah. All right. That's going to wrap things up here on the preview episode. USC and San Jose State playing 5 p.m. On Saturday at the Coliseum on the Pac-12 networks. We will be back with a oh shoot, I got an email. We did get an email. Sorry. Yeah. We're not over. This thing ain't over. We got an email from Tony in Denora, PA. Tony says, Michael and Alicia, this is Tony from Denora, PA, because that's what Tony says. You guys are more than welcome to come to next year's cookout, but there's a slight problem. Denora is in Western PA, 40 minutes outside of Pittsburgh. State College is a 2.5 hour drive away. I was planning to go see the game in Happy Valley if they don't change the schedule around with Oregon and Washington coming into the conference. So maybe we will hook up at the game. Tony, fight on.
So thanks for writing in, Tony. What we've learned since USC joined the Big Ten, though, is that everywhere is 2.5 hours away from State College.
Well, yes,
in Pittsburgh, in Pennsylvania. So maybe we'll choose our base of operations for a Penn State trip.
We're gonna have
Pittsburgh.
We're gonna have a meetup in Reading, Pennsylvania, or Williamsport, or any of those random places. Yeah. Lancaster. Not Lancaster, Lancaster.
Lancaster.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It would be great. I'm sure that if we get out there to the Penn State game, we'll have a meetup of some sort out there, and we'd love to see you. And it'd be a good time. And we'd love to see anybody joining our meetup this week, Friday night, 6 p.m. Shakey's in Valley Village on Laurel Canyon. We'll be there hanging out like a little T-ball team. It'll be fun. Pizza and a pint. And come join us then. We'll be back with a live stream for our members over on YouTube on Thursday for Rod After Dark, Thursday at 9 p.m. Pacific. And then the CarCast coming to you Saturday after the game, about 2 hours after the game. So probably about 10:30 on Saturday night. It gives you time if you're going to the game to get home, get comfy, get a pint of Ben and Jerry's, and tune in.
That sounds like comfort food, though. I hope people don't need comfort food.
Celebratory comfort food.
Okay.
Could be celebratory.
Okay, celebratory pint of Ben and Jerry's.
Yeah, exactly. It could be celebratory.
Yeah.
Totally. All right. We will be back then. Again, the phone number for the rant/rave line, 818-643-7227. Throw that into your phone right now so that way you can call during the game. And also leave questions for the Fallout Pod, which will be on Monday night at 5 p.m. Pacific as well. So big shout out to everybody in the chat who joined us. If you haven't already, be sure to like the stream and subscribe, hit the bell, and become a member on YouTube for all of our bonus content, $4.99 a month, because we'll be back tomorrow for Rod After Dark. I think that's it. I think we're ready for football.
I think we're ready for football, man.
All right. Let's get to it. Till then, we'll see ya.
See ya.
See ya.